Hey everybody, Motorpoet 59 here. I was watching a piece on renewable energy a couple of days ago, and it was a good piece. It didn't tout renewable energy as being the answer to anything. It was just talking about how far the renewable energy, specifically solar and wind, have come over the last 30 years. And they have come a long way, but they're not going to get any better. Solar cells have gone just about as far as they can go. And one of the things that they talked about in this, as far in wind energy too, it's not the technology for wind turbines and the technology for solar cells. It's just not going to get much better, if it ever gets any better at all. I think it's gone as far as it can go. And the show that I watched, one of the things they talked about was the limit of physics. It's gotten to the point where physics is now the issue, and there's no way to get beyond that. Once you have butted up against the physical laws of electricity and how atoms can work and how they can move around, you're not going to get any better. They're not going to get 10 times better. And for them to become a big producer of the energy needs of America, they would have to get 1,000 times better. And that's one of the things they talked about on this, that they would have to get, actually they said thousands of times better. So that's not going to happen. You get these new Green Deal people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and environmental green weenie nut jobs that talk about getting America's energy needs supplied 100% by renewable energy by 2050 or whatever their date was. That is never going to happen. If you want to go back and watch, I've done a few videos on renewable energy, some of my first few videos that I did. They're not going to be the answer to our problems. It just they take up too much space. There are solar farms and wind farms just up here in Tehachapi and over in the Mojave Desert that literally take up hundreds of thousands of acres altogether, I'm sure. And all of it put together won't supply the energy needs of a town the size of Bakersfield. And these people talk about reducing the carbon footprint. It takes an enormous carbon footprint to manufacture the materials for wind turbines, and especially for solar panels. It takes a big footprint to get them from where they're manufactured to where they're going to be sold, and from where they're going to be sold to where they're going to be used, and to install them and to maintain them. And they have to be maintained in perpetuity. They have to be maintained forever, or at least until they don't work anymore. And then what? Then you've got all these toxic materials. It's not like wind turbines and solar panels are biodegradable, and when they don't need them anymore, they go out and spray some water on them and they just dissolve into the desert and into the mountains. That's not the way that's going to work. Someone's going to have to remediate that ground. They're going to have to do something with all that, and that's going to be a huge carbon footprint. I did a deal about the remediation of abandoned solar parks. Abandoned wind parks. And eventually these will be abandoned. Right now in Tehachapi, they're removing the smaller wind turbines that they put up in the mid-'80s and replacing them with the big giant ones they have now. And one of those big ones will replace, I don't know how many of the small ones they'll replace, probably quite a few. Like I said, technology has come a long way since then in wind generators. But as with solar panels, that technology has pretty much reached its limit. They can't really build these wind turbines any bigger. These things are gigantic now. They're awesome pieces of equipment, but they're not going to be the answer for our energy needs. The energy that it takes right now to build those things, the energy that it takes to charge your electric car, all the energy that it takes to build your electric car, your Tesla or your Prius or whatever, all comes from either coal-fired power plants or natural gas-fired power plants. Right now, they are decommissioning most of the nuclear power plants in the United States, which is a silly move. Nuclear power is clean. I know that there are issues with the waste product, but the waste product isn't daily like coal burning or gas burning plants that create emissions every day. We have Yucca Mountain where we can dispose of that waste, and it would handle all the waste. At the time it was built, which was, they commissioned it about 15 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And that would have handled all the nuclear waste for all the power plants in the United States for 100 years. Now, most of those plants have been decommissioned, so there is room for probably a couple hundred years of waste. Is it the perfect solution? No, it isn't. But if we're going to talk about getting rid of fossil fuels, we have to talk about realistic energy sources for the future, and renewables will not be it. We need to build nuclear power plants. We need to stop closing them down. The technology for nuclear power has come a long way as well since the last time a nuclear power plant was built in the United States. And when you talk about the safety records of the nuclear power plants in the United States, they have excellent records. Everybody knows about 3 Mile Island. Well, anybody who's over 40 years old, everybody knows about that. But there have been no other major accidents and no radioactive releases in the United States since 3 Mile Island. Chernobyl could never happen in the United States. That was a Soviet plant that was built without containment domes, shoddy workmanship, just like everything else in the Soviet Union. For all you people who think that socialism and communism is a great thing, that's what happens when you start taking money away from the people, giving it to the government, and start telling the people not to worry about what the state's doing. But anyway, we need nuclear power. 100% renewable energy. That's never going to happen. There aren't enough rivers in the United States that we could dam. The environmentalists are not going to allow us to build any more big dams in America. They probably won't allow us to build any more small dams. There are groups that are trying to have dams dismantled right now to restore the natural waterways. So hydroelectric is out of the question. Solar's out of the question. Wind's out of the question. What's left? Fossil fuels. We still have a lot of fossil fuels that we can use to power our power plants. But they won't let us build any more of those either. It's like the California high-speed rail. I remember reading the proposal for that way back in, I don't know, about 2005 or 2006. And whenever it came out in its entirety, and I didn't read the whole thing, I just was curious about certain parts of it. There's nothing in that proposal about where they're going to get the power to operate the high-speed rail from, well, now it was supposed to go from LA to the Bay Area, but now it's only going to go from Bakersfield to Madeira. Who knows? What a stupid. And the only reason they're doing that is because it's all already started. It's, one of the only smart things I ever saw Newsom do was cancel the rest of that project. But still, they don't know where they're going to get the power. It's not like you can just go, get an extension cord and plug it into a meter box alongside the tracks. You have to have a dedicated power source for that, and they don't have one. Now they're talking about using diesel engines to run these high-speed rails when it comes out until they can figure out what they're going to do, which, if the environmentalists have their way, they'll never figure out what to do. I don't know. It's crazy. It's silly. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motopoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. We'll see y'all later.